I think they should have targeted him, absolutely taken him out. I think the way Israel operates, they just take out the leadership just like they did with Hezbollah. And they've already done that with the Iranian leadership. Just took them out even laying in their beds. And they didn't take down the whole building. They actually targeted where they lay in bed.
So what do you think about that, Michael? I mean, you took out the head of the military and the new heads of the military. They were just taken out this morning. You took out Nasrallah. You took out Haniya. You've taken out Hamas leadership time and time again on the ground there in Gaza. Why not just get rid of the Ayatollah? Or are you concerned with what might follow in the power vacuum?
Well, I think it's more that I don't think anybody in the state of Israel would shed a slightest tear if Mr. Khomeini would meet his maker. I think the maker would be very happy to see him. I think what I really thought, is my background is in military history. When the president said unconditional surrender, what does that evoke? It meant when Roosevelt said that about Japan in World War II. And when Japan surrendered, Roosevelt and the Allies said, well, we're going to keep Emperor Hirohito. Even though he bears a tremendous amount of responsibility for the attack on Pearl Harbor and the horrors that Japan affected throughout the world during the war, we're going to keep him because we need his legitimacy to legitimize the surrender. Now, that was the first thing that came to mind. Preparing for the day that Iran does agree to total unconditional surrender.
All right. Maybe you do need a prominent leader in order to make it legitimate. Michael, always good to talk to you. Thank you so much. We hope that you and your loved ones stay safe through all of this.
Thank you for your support. Okay, bye.
Welcome back. Well, the fighting between Israel and Iran ramped up overnight on this day 5 of the conflict. Hundreds of thousands have hunkered down in Tel Aviv bomb shelters as more are evacuating out of Tehran. Israeli media reporting that the IDF is attacking western Iran this morning on the heels of President Trump returning from the G7 meeting in Canada early. He left early to get back to D.C., and here's what he said from Air Force One.
What I'm looking for a ceasefire, and Sarah was looking for a ceasefire. That was Emmanuel, nice guy, but he doesn't get it right too often. But what I'm looking for better than a ceasefire.
Emmanuel Macron had initially said that the president left so that he could oversee a ceasefire. The president said that's wrong. President Trump previously warned on Truth Social last night Iran should have signed the deal. I told them to sign. Simply stated, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I said it over and over again. Everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran. Joining me now is Fox News senior strategic analyst. He's chairman of the Institute for the Study of War, General Jack Keane, back with me. General, good to see you. Your reaction to what we know so far?
Well, certainly where the president is, he's supporting Israel 100% to complete the campaign that they started here. And that campaign focuses on Iran's center of gravity, their nuclear enterprise. And they want to destroy that enterprise as much as they possibly can, decapitate the leadership, and they're doing a remarkable job in doing that, and also eliminate their ballistic missiles, which is their major weapon that they're using against the Israelis. And they're making significant progress in all three of these areas, as you have noted on this show. And the president is behind that 100%. I think what is in the offing here is Israel knows full well, even though they have significant imagination and significant covert capability, they know that there's a couple of deeply buried sites that they're very challenging for them to get to with air power. And I'm assuming they would like the United States to assist them in achieving that end state. After all, the president did say he's not going to permit Iran to have a nuclear weapon. And if we walk away and leave those sites intact, then the Ayatollah will be able to achieve what he's always wanted here. The reason why he never voluntarily dismantled the program through negotiations is
$5 trillion debt ceiling increase. Just simplify it for us. Dumb it down a little bit when we're talking about cutting those tax cuts, why do you need to increase the debt ceiling in such a dramatic way?
So you need to increase the debt ceiling to provide space for the economy to grow. Because, sort of it's normal that debt grows with an economy, and that's why we typically think of the debt as a share of GDP, the debt relative to the size of the economy. Because when the economy grows, it's just natural that things get scaled up by it, that revenues get scaled up by the size of the economy, outlays get scaled up by the size of the economy, and the debt gets scaled up by the size of the economy too. So it's necessary to increase the debt limit to allow for that.
And we saw President Trump talk to different House members to sway some votes to get it through the House. And earlier on today, we want to put up this a post from our colleague over here at Fox, Aisha Hoskin, saying Vice President J.D. Vance going into a meeting with GOP senators. How much sway, how much is the Trump administration relying on Vance to get some of those votes? And can you share some of the conversations that you are hoping he has with Democrat or GOP senators to get some of the votes on their side?
Yeah, so look, I think we have to understand that President Trump and Vice President Vance as part of the administration, President Trump is a closer, Vice President Vance as well, right? These people can close deals, and the president knew that when he needed to act, when he needed to intervene to get that House bill over the line, he knew exactly what he had to do to start making those meetings, making those connections, and push the bill through. And I have no doubt that when we get to the same point in the Senate bill, that the administration will do the same thing with the president and the vice president. Will manage to talk to senators and get the bill over the line, because the alternative is really bad of not having a bill. And so we will get the bill over the line. But in order to do that, in order to start intervening that way, we have to move things a little bit along so that we know where the points of disagreement are, we know where the points of extension are, and then we can figure out ways to resolve them.
And we heard from House Speaker Mike Johnson said they had years to work on this to get it through the House. The Senate only has a matter of weeks, and before you know it, it will be July 4th. Do you expect negotiations to really go right up to the wire, right up to July 4th before eventually passing this? Is that what you expect?
Yeah, I think that's very likely to happen. I mean, look, we had an ambitious timeline in the House, right? We have an ambitious timeline for releasing the bill. We had an ambitious timeline for passing the bill by Memorial Day. But even though the timeline was ambitious, we delivered. We did those things, right? The bill passed by Memorial Day in the House, and passing the bill in the Senate by July 4th, enacting the bill by July 4th, is also ambitious. But we have a good track record of fulfilling. And you know what? If it ends up passing that deadline by a little bit, it's not the end of the world. We will get this bill done because there is political will to preserve and extend low tax rates, to create American economic prosperity, to create the Trump golden age. And that can only happen if we pass the bill.
And as you mentioned, the alternative might be stark if that does not get done. All right, Chair of the U.S. Council of Economic Advisors, Stephen Moran, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, your insight here live after talk.
Thank you.
All right,
How you doing?
Great conversation there.
Are you picking up a group of people?
Yes.
Can't park here. See that big letter B right there after the green light? That's where you need to be. That's for limos and vans.
Thank you.
Okay?
Tax agenda. And more on this, let's continue on because we're also talking about tariffs and the impact on the larger global economy, the macroeconomics of it all. We saw in the paper yesterday, President Trump talking with Keir Starmer about their trade agreement. For more on this right now, let's go out to Madeline Rivera.
In the Middle East, but not before meeting with key American trading partners, hoping to make deals that could end the ongoing tariff war. And the White House is reporting some progress, including with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, who agreed to finalize a new deal within 30 days. But it's a different story with the European Union.
I don't feel that they're offering a fair deal yet. They've been very tough over the years. If you look at European Union, they formed in order to hurt the United States.
The president also finalized a new trade deal with the UK, focusing on cars, steel, and aluminum.
This now implements on car tariffs and aerospace, a really important agreement, and so this is a very good day for both of our countries, a real sign of strength.
And he engaged in what he called tough negotiations with his Japanese counterpart, but no significant progress was reported.
Well, we must protect our national interests, so it is difficult to say when a deal will be made.
Ultimately, there were no major breakthroughs at the summit, but some world leaders are calling it a success, saying their main goal was to get
for that. And of course, we also know that President Trump did depart the G7 summit early amid the ongoing, the escalating tensions overseas in the Middle East between Israel and Iran, as we're continuing to monitor that here live now from Bonn. Well, thank you, now back down to Washington, D.C. We're hearing from different lawmakers, including the senator out of Texas, Republican John Cornyn. We're listening to what he has to say here on Live Now.
Congress from becoming law unless both chambers override that veto with a 2/3 majority vote. And while the president is not a legislator per se, he can propose legislation, and often does, and influences the legislative agenda by proposing.
All right, you're just listening in there to this John Cornyn making these remarks. But taking quickly back out to the G7 summit, as we are going to hear from Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. You can see all these world leaders at the table. No President Trump, though, as he had to depart this early. You can see there different leaders, Keir Starmer, Emmanuel Macron, others there, Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission President, as this slowly getting underway. Let's listen into it briefly here on Live Now to Bob.
Part of Europe's leadership, the president will be here about this. Okay. All right. We switch. Apologies, Mr. President. Okay, very good. All right. I'll re-begin. Je vais recommencer. C'est la session la plus importante des 2 jours
of our 2 tours and the 2 days of the G7, because we now have with us the head of 30, which is Brazil. Thank you very much for being here. The head of the G20, South Africa. The head of the World Bank. The boss of the United Nations. The biggest country in the world. And the leader in computers and information.
Aspects from Australia, partners in security, partners of the G7, partners in the future of energy and